Hi, I'm Daniel Dochi, and for my project, what I did is really analyzing can Amazon understand what consumers, in this case me, want and need before they even do. So the motivation for this project was the rapid increasing numbers of e-commerce over the last few years. It's estimated that about 2.14 billion people buy online. That's roughly around 25% of the world's population, and what's more, this number is rising rapidly and expected to hit impressive numbers. I am one of those consumers myself. Life is busy with working, finishing my undergraduate, looking for a job, etc. I would love for my favorite stores to understand my purchasing behaviors and predict and ship to me what I want and need before I even know I do. This will reduce my workload and increase my customer satisfaction to the brand/store loyalty. So this project really had 4 stages. Stage 1 was downloading the Amazon purchases over the last 2 years. Stage 2 was data visualization using many data analytics tools, including histograms, Pareto charts, scatter plots, box and whisker, spider spreads, and pie charts. Stage 3 was data analysis and discovering patterns within the data. And lastly, stage 4 was model recommendation to predict what consumers want and need before they even know. So once again, to really reiterate what my model is in the 4 steps, it's really represented by this picture here. And it depicts that I download the data, clean the data, perform data analysis to discover patterns, and turn the data analysis into knowledge by predicting buying behaviors. This picture just kind of gives a more concise view of what the process is. And now that we've seen that, let's kind of go into each stage of the process. So stage 1 of my project was just to download the data, and this was pretty easy to do. So as you can see here, I was able to kind of pull all the data, and I made a quick summary of all of this data and my purchases, just so that you don't really have to spend time looking through each one. But it gives you a really nice kind of view of everything you've purchased and kind of everything you would need to kind of know who the seller is and know some info about it. After I downloaded the data, I quickly skimmed through the data, which kind of just gave me an improved visibility into my purchase and just kind of helped me go forward with stage 2 of this project. The second stage of my project is data visualization. I used many visualization tools to understand my data, the first of which was a Pareto chart. A Pareto chart is a bar graph. The lengths of the bars represent frequency and are arranged with longest bars on the left and shortest to the right. In this way, the chart visually depicts which situations are more significant. For example, Amazon can quickly see that the highest category, 58%, is home supplies. 88% of my purchases come from money spent in home supplies, fitness, and pet, which the Pareto chart kind of shows, with the 88% on the line that's on the third category of pet. This really represents that it includes all three and shows that 88% of purchases were towards pet, fitness, and home supplies. The second data visualization tool I used was a histogram. A histogram is a frequency distribution that shows how often each different value in a set of data occurs. In this case, it shows that I spent $2,546 on home supplies alone. The third data visualization tool I used was a simple pie chart to just really understand what the percentage distribution is of my purchases. For example, we see from the pie chart that 62% of my expenses came from home supplies, 12% from fitness purchases, and so on. The pie chart just really helps to have a quick and easy way to see how much money you spent on each category and what percent of the total that is. So after visualizing the data, that brought me to stage 3, which was data analysis. First, I wanted to understand my highest spend using a spider graph. As we see, the highest price I have paid is $350, and this only occurred once. Then, using the bubble graph, I saw that the majority of purchases are $50. I wanted to mine the data further to understand the minimum, maximum, lower and upper quartiles, as well as the median price for two categories in particular, home expenses and pet expenses, since these were the two categories I spent the most on. As we see for pet expenses, the maximum was 75.90 cents and the minimum purchase was $10.83. Also, we see that the median is $21.68 for my purchases. After analyzing the data, the last step of my model was to come up with a prediction. So to get to my prediction, the first thing I did is kind of going back to the pie chart that I showed previously. Here in this pie chart, we can see that most of my dollars are spent in home supplies, fitness, and pet stuff. So this means that my next future purchase will most likely be one of these categories. So next I moved on to a line trend chart to kind of see if I could tell any purchasing behaviors in my data. And one thing that was pretty apparent is that my fitness and pet orders were both pretty spaced out and at a kind of regular rate, so it's logical to think that this will most likely stay true in the future. Additionally, we see that in August there was a big spike, and this was because of me moving to a new house, so Amazon could kind of deduct that from a lot of like college purchases and whatnot and say that this was a one-off anomaly and probably won't happen again in the future. The conclusion I drew from my project is that through using purchasing data, sellers can discover buying patterns and define rules for future purchases. One potential model to use for prediction is logistic regression. One advantage of logistic regression models is that they allow us to understand the factors influencing the predictions by developing a two-class classification model that uses the logistic regression algorithm to predict the purchase. Research has shown that logistic regression is effective to predict buying behavior. Let's discuss a bit the logistics regression models bring and why choosing it versus the linear regression that we are all familiar with. When deciding what I will buy, instead of predicting with a number, it's best to assign probabilities or weights to my decision. How to calculate those weights? Let's look at the data again. The probability that an event will occur is the fraction of times you expect to see that event in many trials. If the probability of an event occurring is y, then the probability of the event not occurring is 1 minus y. Probabilities always range between 0 and 1. Now, using personal data for each user, you can use the model to predict what and if I will purchase the item. After completing my project, the most interesting findings that I had were that first, my Amazon spend had tripled this year as compared to last year. The main reason for this is I started working as a financial analyst, and having more income allowed me to triple my spend. Another finding was that when people have more income, they substitute cheaper items with more higher quality items. Additionally, when people have more income, they add categories to their lifestyles. I had a high spend in fitness, which I previously didn't have. One last interesting finding is that when people have more income, they spend more money in things they don't even need. I will investigate this one a little bit more as I didn't have too much time to really go into it. The core takeaway of this project is that by having access to our buying behaviors, companies can predict future buying behavior. Another core takeaway is to use logistic regression to predict if customers will purchase an item. The reason for using logistics regression model is since it understands and takes into account odds and probabilities quite well. To summarize, in this project I used a 4-stage process to understand what the consumers want and need before they even do. This process will increase the net profit for the companies, will increase and improve brand loyalty, and it will increase the number of customers.